Yo, what is up, YouTube? It's your boy Tay, and I am here bringing you guys my official Deathloop review. Now, Deathloop is a game that takes place in the 1960s on a small island called Black Reef, where you play as the character Colt, who pretty much just woke up on a stranded beach, not knowing anything that has transpired the day before or why he's even in this position at all. And you ultimately find out that you're being hunted by a person named Juliana. Now, within doing all of this, while you're traversing the world and moving throughout it, you start to notice these kind of like hieroglyphic signs just floating in the middle of the air that's telling you that you need to break the loop and or stop the loop and ultimately kill the visionaries. And what this pretty much leads up to is the loop of the game. Now, Deathloop features these people called visionaries. There's 8 of them that you need to kill within one day. And that is like that is literally the overall goal of what this game is. It all takes place on this one large map, and within Black Reef, you have 4 different subsections that you can access, and at 4 different times of day. Now, in order to kill all 8 people, you have to figure out at what time of day on what piece of the map do you need to be in order to access and kill those people. And of course, it's going to take a few loops through the game before you finally realize the actual loop that you need to take and or course that you need to take in order to kill everyone. I think it took me on average about maybe eight loops before I finally got all the information I needed and I was able to kill all 8 visionaries, which pretty much totaled out to be, if I was to really give a guesstimate time, I think I spent about 10 hours on the game. Now, mind you, the loop itself starts over if your character dies. Now, Colt gets this ability right out back, that pretty much allows him to die 3 times. And I say die 3 times because you die once, you loop backwards. You die twice, you loop backwards. But if you die again, then the whole day starts over. And pretty much that can really set you back on the course of what you're trying to do, especially if maybe you got some trinkets or some guns that you really liked. Like, getting set back the whole day and not being able to have your stuff again can kind of mess it up. I wouldn't consider Deathloop a roguelike, but it definitely has the amenities of what makes roguelikes so special in themselves, because the enemies aren't randomly generated, right? So it's not like the enemies are different every time you come through, but sometimes the enemies do get more and more aggressive the more loops you come through. But the special thing about it is the enemies don't necessarily remember what happened the loop beforehand. So the only thing that really changes is how Juliana decides to approach your game. Now, the thing about Juliana is Juliana can either be another player or an NPC, purely depending on if you have the multiplayer mode on. And pretty much how you can tackle these maps, man, is solely up to you. If you played any of the Dishonored games, you know that you can either take a guns blazing route or you could take a completely stealth route. Now, unlike Dishonored, this game doesn't suffer from drawbacks for taking either route. It's pretty much just how you choose to do it. Because in Dishonored, when you would kill everybody, the rat plague would get worse. Well, in Deathloop, if you decide to kill everybody, it's just going to make the time tougher in terms of getting to the visionary that you need to kill. Now, you're provided a good arsenal of weapons. You have shotguns, snipers, machine guns, and pistols for you to use. You can only access 3 of them at a time. And you have a machete, you have grenades, and you have 2 slab abilities for you to utilize in each gameplay section. Now, the slabs are pretty much the powers. So Shift, Havoc, Carnesis, Aether, and Nexus. And they all provide their own special ways of playing the game. Shift allows you to teleport from one spot to another. Havoc allows you to take less damage while you deal more damage. Carnesis allows you to make people float. Aether allows you to turn invisible. And Nexus allows you to link enemies together. Now, the only way you can get these powers is by killing the visionaries. And once you kill the visionary, who pretty much holds that slab and has that power, then you take that power from him. And of course, ultimately, you learn how to keep your items from one loop to the next. So then you figure out how to pretty much have these powers going through each loop. And really, that's the biggest gist of the game, right? That is literally the ultimate gist of the game. You have the other small things like, the character trinkets, which, give you things like being able to double jump or breathe in like this poisonous gas that occasionally happens around the map, or you can hack machines from much further away. They definitely change the pace of your gameplay, but they don't change the game in such a major way that it will affect your playthrough, right? It just allows you to play the game differently for yourself. Now, now that I've explained the most of what Deathloop is, I can give you guys my review of it, right? So Deathloop is a really solid game. I've seen that a lot of people hated that it was only one map and that, there wasn't like a super huge difference in, the areas and how they looked. But ultimately, as you go through the loops, as you learn more information, you actually start to unlock a whole lot of sub levels to what those maps were. You start to go into like underground dungeons that you can't access any other way if you don't have a certain code to get past a certain door, or if you don't go at a certain time, then you can't gain the code to get access to go through that door. It provides enough like secrets and depth within those secrets that I feel like a lot of people really needed to give it, a longer shot in order to fully understand the mind work that was being played with the loop, the gameplay loop of Deathloop. I know I'm gonna say that shit a lot because it just flows in line with how the game works. Um, but yeah, so like I really feel like a lot of people wasn't really giving it the time that it needed. I feel like if a person really got to the point where they understood how they can keep the items from one loop to the next, by that point you've pretty much understood how to play the game, and you can start to tackle it in a way where you start to enjoy it more because now you're starting to get creative with how you want to beat it. And ultimately that's the biggest thing, man, is you want to beat it in a way that is quick and efficient, but also you can get super creative in terms of you can allow situations to happen where ultimately like people will end up killing themselves or they'll kill each other. You know what I'm saying? It gives you that much freedom to do with the game. Now, my biggest problem with the game was that the AI in the game just sucked. Like even the AI in the previous Dishonored games was much better than the AI in Deathloop. Like I would say the AI in Deathloop was far more aggressive in nature, but at the same time, it was also a lot more stupid in how it would approach situations. And then on top of that, it didn't help that the game had, a good series of bugs and glitches. Like I know on stream one time I ran into a glitch where I literally couldn't execute somebody and I was right behind them. And then they turned around and they couldn't see me. I'm standing right in front of the person and it's like they didn't see me, they didn't detect me or nothing. But soon as I swung, my weapon actually like hit like an invisible wall right next to me, and it caused noise, and then all of a sudden that person that I couldn't even execute nor could see me was alerted and alerted everybody around me, and it just blew up into a whole situation. But I definitely ran into those issues a lot more than I would like. um the level design in itself, like I said, it was good and how deep and mysterious it was once you start to get much later in the game. But I can agree that I do feel like a lot of the scenery should have changed on the map. Now, if you look at any of the maps in the game of what Black Reef is much larger than what they would actually show. And we really only got like a small touch of what that is. Hopefully, maybe we get more of that out of Deathloop 2, because there's definitely room for this game to continue on as a series. But as far as what we got, it was definitely lacking in that department. The multiplayer. So the multiplayer is cool. You can go into somebody else's game as Juliana, and when you go into your game as Juliana, pretty much your goal is to kill Cole. Cole, and you have to kill him 3 times. Or you may join a game where Colt may have died already once or twice, and now you just there to fucking piss in his salad, because it's like now you only have to kill him once, and he pretty much has to find out where you're at. Now the thing about Juliana entering your game is, once Juliana enters your game, it locks the exit ways out of the map, and you have to hack the antenna in order to get out of the map. Now, that antenna is both marked for you and Colt, so you both know where it's at, and it even notifies you when Colt is actually hacking the antenna. So, it's a game of cat and mouse, but it also gives enough clues to the cat to find the mouse. And then even in a lot of cases, you'll find Colt before he even decides to hack the antenna. Like, but there are times where the Colt will just be quick as hell and get it in and out. I've done it before, and I've had it happen to me when I played as Juliana. My biggest issue with the multiplayer, though, is when you actually do get into fights and interactions with other players, there's a network slash desync issue where people will warp and move around, you know, without, like, while you're shooting at them. And within that desync issue, sometimes you'll be hitting and the hits are not registering. Or sometimes, like I said, you'll shoot at them and then they'll just warp to another spot. Now, there is a dodge mechanic in the game, which is pretty much pressing left and right, or A and D and holding shift, which kind of does like this quick hop step to the side or whatever. But within doing that, it's also providing a slight layer of immunity. And within that layer of immunity, again, you're still dealing with network and desync issues that just adds more on top of it. And it can be very annoying. I've had it happen to me plenty of times. But other than that, the multiplayer loop aspect was pretty cool, pretty fun. You definitely kind of found some enjoyment out of stopping people from being able to complete their mission, but ultimately being able to unlock different things for you to utilize as Juliana. And then it also provides you with a lot of challenges as Juliana to try to accomplish within killing Cole, like killing him with the mine instead of shooting him, or killing him while you're disguised as him. It just gives you a lot of avenues to want to approach the game in a new way every time. You don't go into the game with the same mindset, because even as Juliana, the person you may be playing against may be just going in guns blazing. So you can approach that situation much differently than a Colt who's playing as stealthily as possible. I've been one of the people too who, when Juliana enters my game, while I'm playing as Colt, sometimes I'll just camp out, and wait for him to make the wrong move, and he makes the wrong move, and we get into a shootout. But it allows me to catch him out first before he's allowed to catch me. And then I've been in similar situations as Juliana where I've been forced to make moves to find the Colt, and that Colt has gotten the jump on me. But there's been cases where the Colt tries to camp out, and as Juliana, I found him before he could even find me, and I got the jump on him. So it's a give and take with the multiplayer, but it's definitely fun in how it's presented and how it actually plays out. It's much better to play the game, I feel like, than to watch it, because when you're playing it, you're the one that's consistently coming up with the ideas and routes that you could take in order to accomplish the mission in terms of killing the visionaries. But even more so, the biggest thing that I love about the game is that the story in itself really does have a special way of world building. And that's mainly because the initial conversations that happen between Colt and Juliana at the beginning of every map, Juliana will radio in the Colt, and they'll have like a quick back and forth. And as you get through as many loops as possible, you start to notice that conversation changes. It goes from a Juliana who's just always super angry at you and trying to get you to understand basic stuff, and Colt being confused, to now you're starting to have them having kind of a playful back and forth where Colt understands what's going on now. Juliana is more accepting of the fact that he understands what's going on now, and it's almost become a personal game for both of them. And then, of course, saying that, that ultimately leads up to the ending of the game. Now, the ending of the game has three possible endings that you could take. I've done two of them. I didn't do the third one because the third one just repeats what the loop is in itself, and there was no variation in text or how it plays out. So the two endings that I did end up getting very much so changes your perspective on what's going on. Now, I don't want to give too much of that because this is going to be a spoiler free review of the game. But ultimately, when you do get to these points in the game, at this point, you've understood a lot about Colt and Juliana enough to where these endings make sense, and or you start to make your own hypothesis about what's going to happen with the future of the game. Do they make a Deathloop 2? Do they make a Deathloop 2 that's based off of what happens before the original events of Deathloop? Or, you know, do they ultimately leave the game where it's at? But ultimately those three endings do within itself give you variety in terms of how you want to view this game and all the build up and things that you went through to get to that point. Now, I would definitely advise people, if you do play the game, try to pick up as many audio logs as possible, because again, it gives a lot of information and story about the game. I know some people don't like the knick-knack hunt, and I'm not even telling you to knick-knack hunt. I'm just telling you to pay attention to the little tidbits that are within the game. Ultimately, man, I guess if I was to give my score on the game, I would easily give Deathloop a 8 out of 10. I would give it a 9, but I subtract points for the desync issue and the bugs that happen. Now, the bugs that did happen, like I said, they would happen almost infrequently, but they would happen frequently at the same time. It would be like in one session it would happen twice, and then for the next like 5 sessions it wouldn't happen. You know, or it would happen once one session, and then it'll be 3 other sessions before it happens again. So I'm not going to sit here and just say it was, you know, a bane in my whole playthrough, but it happened and it was enough to be like I have to take away for that. And of course, the multiplayer connection issues, I would definitely have to take away for that too. And the AI and how its competence works, I would have to take away for that. So I would definitely give it a 8 out of 10 on my rating scale. Great game. I highly suggest you pick it up. I would even advise you, if you're not really sold on it, wait for it, wait to get it on a sale. It would still be, Deathloop honestly would be a perfect $40 game for anybody who's already on the spectrum about the game. But if you really want it and you really needed that push to say, hey, is this really good or not, I would definitely advise you to go out and buy it and support it. Support Arcane. They make great games in my opinion. I love this Dishonor series. Prey is on my backlog to eventually knock out, and Deathloop has now been inducted into that category of games that I beat by Arcane, and I definitely highly suggest. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I appreciate you guys coming through. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe if you want to see more content, and I will catch y'all on another time, man. Y'all have a good one. Peace.